What's good? What's good? I'm back. Yours truly, one and only Paul Pickett, host of the Paul Pickett Podcast, aka Triple P, aka the Common Sense Podcast, your source for music, sports, politics, world events, and much, much more. As you know, in the mornings I go over sports, and if I got time later in the afternoon, I do a react. Right now we are live on Bingo Live and TikTok Live and pre-recorded for YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. And the audio version goes to Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Deezer, TuneIn, Stitcher, Slacker, iHeartRadio, Player FM, and much, much more. Couple games last night, and I'm gonna go over the who I think is gonna win tonight's games, and the fact that the Hawks, before the playing game, leaked that Trae Young is available for trade on the offseason. And I'm going to go over who you could possibly trade Trae Young for. Of course, I picked Miami Heat to win last night, and they lost to the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young was definitely locked in. So if that was a strategy, like a mental strategy to sit there and say we might trade Trae Young on the offseason, or anybody's up for trade, including Trae Young. Well, it worked, but I don't know if it's going to work for a whole series. Trae Young gave you 25 with 7 assists. He had 5 turnovers, though. 18. He's a turnover machine. 18 from DeJounte Murray with 6 assists and 5 rebounds. Trae Young also gave you 8 rebounds as well. 21 rebounds for Clint Capella. For people that say Clint Capella didn't do nothing, he didn't score no points. 21 rebounds and 2 blocks. That's a lot. And 8 of them were offensive rebounds. 8 offensive rebounds. That's crazy. You got Sadiq Bey gave you 17 off the bench. He was pretty aggressive. You had another 22 off of the bench as well. John Collins gave you 10 points, a few rebounds. Jimmy Butler gave you 21 with 9 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Bam Adebayo didn't do much, 12 and 9. Tyler Hero gave you 26. But all these guys were negative. Kyle Lowry came off the bench and gave you 33 points off the bench, but he was a negative 12. So that's not good. But Miami still has one more chance because they'll play the winner of Chicago and Toronto. Minnesota and the Lakers. Watched all the highlights of this one. Minnesota had this game won, and they just gave it away. It probably doesn't help that one of your players was out because he broke his hand by punching a wall, and the other one was suspended for punching a teammate in the chest, which I thought was suspending a player before a playing game is like really, really, really stupid, not really smart, if you ask me. Let's go over the score. Last night it was 108 to 102. Torian Prince gave you 14. Kyle Anderson gave you 12 with 13 assists, 24 and 11 from Karl Anthony Towns, and 23 from Mike Conley. Anthony Edwards. If Anthony Edwards shows up, they win this game. He was 3 for 17. 3 for 17. But Anthony Edwards is still young. This is only he's only been in the league 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. This is probably his 3rd year, yeah. So this is his 3rd year. He's only got 2 years experience. Still young. He averaged 24, 5, and 4 a game. Was literally almost top 5 in scoring. He was top 10 in scoring. If I'm them, I would see what I would put it out there and see what I could get for Karl Anthony Towns. I would see what I could get for Karl Anthony Towns and move on from them. We got Chicago and Toronto tonight. I'm picking Toronto and OKC and New Orleans. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is probably going to put up a 40-piece, but I still got them losing. I'm going with New Orleans to win that. let's talk about Trae Young. Trae Young, before the game, they said the Hawks leaked it. They purposely leaked it that anybody's up for trade on the offseason, including they threw out the name Trae Young for a reason. I don't know if it was to light a fire under his ass before this game. And if that was the case, it worked. But it is grimy. That was so grimy. Like, we're gonna do that right before the play-in game. We're gonna do that. I mean, like, I you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking Atlanta didn't think that they were gonna win this game against Miami, which I didn't pick them to win the game against Miami. So I think they pretty much had that on their minds. Who really could we trade Trae Young for? Like, who is Atlanta willing to take back for Trae Young, and who's willing to trade for Trae Young? I seen a thing with Trae Young in a Lakers jersey. Would Lakers trade D'Angelo Russell and some more pieces for Trae Young? I don't know, man. I really don't know. Would I trade D'Angelo Russell and maybe Schroeder and some picks to Atlanta? I would probably do that if I was the Lakers, but if I'm the Hawks, do I want D'Angelo Russell back for Trae Young? No, it's not even. I need more than that. I need D'Angelo Russell and a couple players or some picks, or I'm not seeing nowhere where Trae Young could really go. The Knicks got Jalen. They got Jalen Brunson. The Cavs got Darius Garland. The Sixers. Would the Sixers be interested in trading a sign and trade deal for James Harden and something else? James Harden and something else for Trae Young. If I'm the Sixers, I might would do that. Embiid and Trae Young. If I could keep Tyrese Maxey, trade James Harden and Tobias Harris for Trae Young, I would probably do that. Nets, Brooklyn Nets. The Nets would definitely trade Spencer Dinwiddie and probably Cam Thompson and a pick or some picks for Trae Young. Could I see Trae Young at the Nets? I could see Trae Young at the Nets. Trae Young with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton. I could see that. The Bulls. I could see Trae Young going to Chicago. But if I'm Chicago, I don't want to get rid of DeRozan or LaVine. And if I do, I'm probably trading DeRozan and keeping LaVine. But the Hawks could have want DeRozan for. That's the thing too. Like, it's got to be benefit both teams. Could I see Trae Young at the Bulls? I could see Trae Young at the Bulls. Trae Young, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic. You'd probably have to trade away Kobe Bryant. Can't even think of his name right now. Kobe White. Like, no way is the Hawks taking back Lonzo Ball. It probably had to be like Kobe White, DeRozan for Trae Young. It probably would. Let's see. Is there any other teams in the East I can see Trae Young going to? Just the Nets, maybe the Sixers, and the Bulls. The Pistons got Cade Cunningham. Charlotte Hornets got LaMelo Ball. No way. If we trade LaMelo Ball for Trae Young, I'll never watch a Charlotte Hornets game ever again. Orlando's interesting. Orlando is interesting because Orlando could trade Jalen Suggs and Markelle Fultz, or Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony, and some draft picks. Orlando would be a nice spot for him. I could see him at Orlando. Him, Paolo Banchero, and Franz Wagner, and Wendell Carter Jr. Of course, you might would have to trade Wendell Carter Jr. You might would have to trade Wendell Carter Jr. for Trae Young. It might be Wendell Carter Jr., Markelle Fultz, or Cole Anthony. Wizards. Could I see him at the Wizards? I could. Trae Young, Bradley Beal, and Porzingis. You'd have to trade probably Kyle Kuzma and some picks and some other pieces. But that's not enough. Kyle Kuzma's not enough, man. Let's go to the West. Trae Young. Where can I see him in the West? Traded to Minnesota for Karl Anthony Towns. That's a possibility. Trae Young. You probably have to trade Mike Conley and Karl Anthony Towns for Trae Young and John Collins. But if I'm Minnesota, I'll take Trae. And you probably have to trade Karl Anthony Towns. If you could trade Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley for Trae Young, hell yeah, you do it. Trae Young, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards. Yeah, you do it. OKC's got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey. They're good. Utah. Let's see. They got Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton. I don't know that Danny Ainge would want Trae Young. No way, no how do I think Danny Ainge would want Trae Young. No way, no how. Portland. Trae Young for Damian Lillard. Could I see that? Yeah, I could see that. Because this is the thing. Dame Lillard, he kind of flip-flopping. 1 minute, Dame Lillard is like, yeah, I don't want to go and play with no super teams. I want to win here in Portland. Portland rebuilding. No, I'm not with the rebuilding with the players. It's going to take 2 or 3 years. I want to be in a win-now situation. Well, that's the thing. They're not necessarily going to trade him to a win-now situation just because he wants out of Portland. I could see them trading him to Atlanta for a Trae Young. And Portland, they would have Trae Young, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, Jurkic, and who else did they? Yeah, I mean, but they still wasn't like, even with Trae Young, Portland wasn't the Rockets. Could I see him at the Rockets? I don't know if the Rockets don't got no player with a big enough contract to trade for him. The Spurs, no. I don't see a lot of teams that would want Trae Young. Maybe Minnesota Timberwolves. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a sign and trade for Kyrie Irving for Trae Young to Dallas, and then you have Luka and Trae Young. That would be interesting. Luka and Trae Young should work. Luka and Trae Young should work because Trae Young averages about 10 assists a game almost, anywhere from 8 to 10 assists. That could possibly work. But I don't think the Jazz would want him. It would work probably, but they wouldn't want him. Portland, I mean, Damian Lillard for Trae Young, it could work. Just the trade itself, not that he would win in Portland. None of these top teams, Lakers would be interested in Trae Young, but it depends on the price. You got to keep Anthony Davis, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, I'm thinking. But Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, Phoenix, Clippers, Golden State, none of them will want him. Detroit, they're the worst team in the league. And they got Kay Cunningham and Jaden Ivey and Killian Hayes. They're pretty good. Charlotte, like I said, we're not trading Trae Young for no LaMelo Ball. I prefer LaMelo Ball. Orlando, maybe Washington, maybe Chicago, and maybe Brooklyn. Because Brooklyn, they held on to the 6th seed, but I don't know Brooklyn's going to be a play-in team or a playoff team at all next year. We'll see. Mikal Bridges keeps putting up 30-point games. Mikal Bridges putting up 25 to 30s next year. And you got Cam Johnson, and Cam Thompson gets better, and Nick Claxton and Spencer Dinwiddie. Yeah, they could win some games. I don't know how many, though. But I don't see too many places for Trae Young to go. And the Hawks, are they going to want back a point guard, a position for position? Are they going to want to just move DeJounte Murray to point guard? And then you go after – now, if you're going after Trae Young for a 2 guard or something like that, then the options – a lot more options, man. There's a lot more options if you're just trading – if you're not trading position for position. And John Collins will probably be – I wouldn't be surprised if Trae Young and John Collins both get traded to the same spot. I would not be surprised at that one bit. Like Brooklyn trades Trae Young and John Collins. Hawks trade Trae Young and John Collins to Brooklyn for like Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie or something. I don't know. But I don't see a ton of teams. Like if I'm Toronto, do I want Fred VanVleet or Trae Young? I want Fred VanVleet. Trae Young is a turnover machine. He has the most turnovers since he's pretty much been in the league. Definitely the most the last couple years. Yeah, he can put up points, put up assists, but he's a defensive liability and he's a turnover machine. I don't see a lot of places for Trae Young to go. A lot more than Russell Westbrook, I can tell you that much. Russell Westbrook's about to be out the league real soon. And don't get me wrong, I love Russell Westbrook. He plays super hard. He gives 110% effort. If anybody that doesn't cheat you on the court, it's Russell Westbrook. He works hard night in, night out. And I respect hard work. I'm a person who respects hard work. So I will always have mad respect for Russell Westbrook. I won't, attack him the way everybody else attack him. Like, we know he's never been an efficient player. But if Ben Simmons had any of the tenacity and aggression that Russell Westbrook had, Ben Simmons wouldn't be about to be out the league after his contract's up. I'm predicting that too. Ben Simmons, once his contract's up, he's out the league, man. If he doesn't figure it out by the time his contract's up, if he don't figure it out next year, he's done, man. He's out the league. So, yep. I think the Trae Young being leaked right before the play-in game is grimy. That was so grimy of the Hawks. I mean, I don't know that anybody would want to go play for the Hawks as a big free agent if you're doing stuff that grimy. That's probably one of the most grimiest things I've seen in NBA history is you leaked that we will trade Trae Young literally before the play-in tournament. You didn't even get this guy a chance to play the play-in tournament and lose, but he ended up winning. Now he's got the 7th seed. He got to play Boston, which they're not going to beat Boston. No way, no how does Atlanta beat Boston. But if Atlanta was to somehow beat Boston, like, if I'm Trae Young, I'm asking out at the end of the season. I'm asking out at the end of the season anyways, just because you were so grimy to leak it before the play-in tournament game. Like, right, but this literally got leaked the day before the game. Regular season's over. Okay, now let's get it out there that we'll trade Trae Young. So what if it's a play-in tournament game? Let's just get it out there. If you were looking to light a fire under his ass, it worked for that game, but it's not going to get you through Boston and Philly and Milwaukee and the Cleveland Cavs for that matter. I don't think Atlanta could beat Cleveland. I don't even know that Atlanta could beat New York Knicks this time. And New York, if Atlanta was to play New York in the playoffs and beat Atlanta, and New York was to beat Atlanta, New York would go bananas. They would go bananas. They would go berserk. They would go crazy, man, if they got redemption because of what Trae Young did to them last time they went to playoffs. So, yep. Once again, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Paul Pickett Podcast. And I'm out.